That's good, though. That's actually, you actually do need to be prepared to improv.
Skyline has a question.
Skyline. That we can talk about.
Right. Yeah, you go first.
I'm currently working, well, we're on hold right now because we're on strike, but on a video game that I can't name, but we're doing that.
I know. Most of our current decent projects are probably all NDA.
Yeah, that's the thing with voiceover is that so much of the work is under NDA because so many of the studios are very high caliber, like Sony and all that, so they want to take really special care of their IPs. So a lot of the stuff even gets like code names, or you don't even get the right sides for it. You don't get proper sides. You don't know who you're playing. You don't know the plot. You don't know who you're talking to. So you have to like create those circumstances for you. So they really only like release it once it's released. Sometimes you don't even know the name of the game until it's released. And you're like, oh, that's that code name that I worked on 2 years ago or whatever.
I have a story about that.
Yeah.
I have a story about it. So in
Yes. Yeah. So we don't have residuals. That's one thing. And that was, so there was a video game strike a couple of years ago, and that was the main factor of it. They don't pay residuals. Because some of these games, like video games and animation are like $1 billion industry right now. Even there was an article about anime in particular, the Japanese animation, that, what's that capturing? There was an article recently about anime, which is the Japanese animation that comes from Japan, that it's now such a big industry. It's like a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's exactly, and that's what they were saying, but the problem is the studios, there's so much, the actors really are the last part of development for these games. So there's so many people working on it prior to when we even come in, that like if we get residuals, they also have to get residuals. And those people don't have unions, they're fighting for their freelancers and stuff like that.
I think there's an element of like shutting the door after the horse has bolted as well, because there never have been residuals. The video game companies are like, why should we?
Right.
You've never had it before, why should we change and create an extra layer of cost for our business? We're gonna fight against that.
Right. And now we're on strike for video game strikes mostly because of AI. But another part of it is that video game companies, they have literally said to actors in our committee that they only think of us as data. They don't need us. They think of us as data. Yeah.
Do you remember a great actor, Ed Herman, very tall guy? If you saw him, you know, he was amazing. But Ed made most of his money doing audiobooks and narrating documentaries. And this year, a new book, audiobook, came out read by Ed Herman. He's been dead 8 years.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you've got that whole thing about, that's the AI thing, isn't it? We tend to think of AI as being all bad, but what we're fighting for is not that AI is all bad, but that if you're going to use it, then the performer should be paid appropriately, they should be able to give their consent, and they should know about it. And if all those things are in place, then it's just like another actor taking that role, because they're being paid the same way a human actor would have been.
AI, what they said on this project was that the state got paid something, but there was no union for that. So
Right.
they negotiated was paid.
Yeah, and there are now some AI development companies that are getting alongside the union and starting to negotiate proper contracts.
You will eventually hear a book read by, this is a quote, Humphrey Bogart,
Right.
because they're public domain.
Right. I mean, the thing with that too, with AI, is that I think, in my opinion, it's silly for performers or people in the industry to think that they're not going to use it, because they are, and they already have. So it's already there, but it's how can we control it for us that helps benefit us so that we don't get screwed by the input of AI.
The Writers Guild thought they want, but they
Right.
opened the door.
No, yeah,
They limited the amount, but they didn't exclude.
right,
So the next strike will be grow.
right.
There are also use cases for AI voices that allow a company to use a voice in a circumstance that currently we cannot, as humans, we can't react quickly enough. Right? Someone phones me up, they want to advertise their special on aisle 5 of a supermarket, and it's today, they can type those words into and that can be done like that. But for a human to react to that, it's actually quite difficult for us to react that quickly. Things like going to your car dealer and being able to watch a video describing the car in real time, where the car dealer can put in the different components of what they want to sell about that particular car, because they're all different, right? Different year, different color, and so on. And there are ways in which they can do that with AI voices that as humans, we would find it very difficult to react quickly enough to be able to create that content. And if we have knowledge and consent and so on and pay for that, that's an extra revenue stream for actors and voice actors that currently doesn't exist.
If you get paid for it.
Right, you've got to have knowledge,
Yeah.
consent,
Right.
and pay.
I mean, it's scary now because I just saw a holiday commercial for Coke where it was all AI generated. And it was like animated and there was no voiceover. But it was all...
Yeah, shape of things to come.
Yeah. All animated AI. And you can tell, and that's how people were like, wait, this must be AI because this hand is wrong or whatever. But it was very scary because it's a full-blown commercial from Coke, which is another multi-million-dollar company that's using this tool to completely erase the technological part of it and the creative side of it. So that's, and we're...
It's only gonna get better. It's not
Hopefully, yeah.
more efficiency.
Yeah. Oh, you mean AI is? Yes.
AI is only gonna get better.
Yeah.
So as a creative industry, it's our responsibility in a sense to try and get alongside that curve so that the contracts and the protections are in place for the performers. Even if it's an AI version of their voice being used, there should be the same level of protection against misuse. And it's the misuse of AI that I think is the problem. Is that a hand up, Rhodes?
When you guys are developing characters, do you like more description or less description? Do you like a drawing of the character, or do you like to just kind of come up with who that person is?
I come from a stage background rather than any filmic background, and so for me, the more information I'm given in advance, the closer I'm likely to be able to create a character that's in line with the director's vision. So if I've just got a few words and no context, who knows what I'm going to create? I mean, I suppose that might be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know, but who knows what I'm going to end up creating? And I don't know. I have no clue as to whether that's close to the vision of the content creator or not. So the more, the merrier for me.
Same, because I also come from a theater background and film background. So sometimes for animation, you might get drawings with it and utilizing that drawing to kind of create the character. So like if they have buck teeth, like putting buck teeth on and how does that change your voice? Like things like that. Or if they have like chubby cheeks or things like that.
Yeah, or if they're small, you can make yourself small or big.
If they're an object, like a knife is going to sound different than like a teapot, maybe, like Beauty and the Beast.
I tell you, in my house, the knives all sound different.
Yeah.
Even
Even when you're like cutting
the fish knife sounds different to the...
One's lighter. So having that detail for me helps me create the character. But then also sometimes you get sides, because sides are written by usually the writers or like a PA or something like that. So sometimes you get too much information that actually doesn't help you as an actor. It's like she's confident but shy. She knows how to get what she wants, but also has trouble expressing her mind and things. And like those kinds of things don't really help you. So you gotta like learn to parse through. And that's where I think stage and film backgrounds come into handy, where you can like really dial into the script and see and pick out what helps you and what doesn't.
Yeah, like if you like doing like this, trying to read the subtext, what's behind the words, what was this character doing before this particular scene was created? What were they doing before they entered stage left, effectively?
Do you want to introduce yourself and like what you've done
Really?
and your
Do I have
background?
to?
I guess because this is our crowd. I think.
Okay, all right. So my name is Ian Russell. I'm a British actor based here in the Upstate. my relationship to animation really started. So I started as an pro actor in 2014, but my relationship with animation only really started hitting around 2020, when I was cast as the bad vulture villain guy. You know, Brits, we're all butlers or villains, for a children's TV series called Badanamu Cadets. It was only one episode, but it was so well animated, I decided to put him into an awards thing, and I won. So I ended up with one credit, which is male voice animated performance of the year for 2020, which is kind of, for the One Voice Awards, which is kind of crazy, really. And then nothing much again for another couple of years. And I'm probably better known as a video game voice. But in the last 12 to 18 months, I have found my animation credits are kind of to ramp up. And most of them I can't talk about because they're not going to be released until the end of next year. But there's some very significant IPs that I really want to talk about that I can't. I do have some work for Pokemon, though, so everybody will have heard that.
Wait, which one?
Not a one. So there was a new Pokemon that was introduced called the Poltergeist.
Oh, but what was
It's like
the
a little-
project
it's a
name? Was it
little
Pokemon
ghost.
Masters? Or
I'm not sure I even
Okay.
know. See, I told you, I'm only Pokemon adjacent. But they created a film for the creation of that
okay.
Pokemon, and I got to be the narrator of the
I
story.
think that's Pokemon Masters. Because I work on Pokemon as well. So that's why I was like, which one did you do?
Yeah,
Because there are
no, I have
multiple
this
series.
problem, yeah. There is a card of the Poltergeist, but that's the closest.
Oh,
I
that's
can
so fun.
get to.
Yay.
Yeah. So that's me, really. My story, I'll tell quickly the story about like not knowing. So in 2015, I was cast in a video game. I recorded the lines, I sent it off. He was called a South African mercenary. That's all I knew about him. 2 years later, I got a random email from somebody I didn't know, and they said, would you come to this charity event? And I'm like, well, do I have to fly somewhere? Do I have to put my DJ on? It was a virtual event, as it turned out, for a game called Payday. I'm like, okay, what's this Payday game then? So, okay, this is a fairly large game. They've got, 10 million players worldwide and all this kind of thing. And it turns out that my character is one of the main contractors for the game, and I had no idea 2 years later.
What a nice information
right,
to know.
so yeah, wouldn't it have been?
If you're
So I
going to a
missed 2
charity
years
event.
of like knowing I was in this enormous game. I had no
Yeah.
idea. And like since then, it's kind of grown and grown and grown. And so next year will be 10 years of playing the same character.
Oh my
which is-
God, that's so
I know,
exciting.
which is wild, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but at outset, you receive the sides. It doesn't tell you anything really about the character. The one thing they asked for, kind of improv-wise, is, okay, you're in a lift, you're going somewhere. What tune are you going to say? So I thought about it a little bit, and because it was obviously this combat-related situation, so I hummed the 1812 overture. Da, 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 like that. And they put it in the game.
That's amazing. I love that.
And I think it's that got me cast,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm sure my South African accent isn't that great.
They were like close enough, but the overture.
Your turn.
Okay, I'm Francesca Calo. I, similar to Ian, started in theater and film and then moved to voiceover kind of during the pandemic. That's when it really kind of took off. I worked in animation as a voice actress for Pokemon, for shows like Nickelodeon, Regal Academy, 44 Cats. These are like Nick Jr. shows. BBC. I've done video games like Warframe, Wasteland 3, Path to Nowhere, and Watcher of Realms, and some others that can't talk about. The last. But yeah, so I got into animation and voiceover. One of my friends from college put out her animation demo, and I was like, I've always been interested in anime in particular and animation, and so I reached out, and she introduced me to this wonderful teacher named Erica Schroeder, who she played like Eevee on Pokemon. She's like the voice of childhood, like Tara Strong type, and then I started learning from her, and then got into the studios, and then the pandemic hit. And it was the only thing that was working, and it was great because I already had a studio set up, and all the studios were like, we need people, and they opened their doors, and it was like a floodgate of work. So that was really great, and it's continued to be a really great experience. Yeah.
But you've since moved now to LA.
I have
so
moved
I
to
still
LA.
work entirely as a remote talent.
Yeah.
But
I
you've
wanted
moved to LA.
I've moved to LA. I was in New York. I've moved to LA. A lot of animation studios are still there, although they've been merging with these bigger companies. So we're still kind of seeing where that's going. But yes, I moved to LA more out of necessity because most of my work the studios I was working for started saying, we need you to come into studio more and more. And so then I made the jump. But coming from North Carolina too, like working here, I would still say that remote work is still prominent as well. Like, just, you don't have to be, what's great about voiceover is you don't have to be in a hub anymore. You can be anywhere in the world. Like, I've worked with people from the Midwest, from the UK, from Japan. So you can really be anywhere, and more studios are still open to it. Like Nickelodeon still asks people to record from home. A lot of commercial work is still from home. So it's not that you have to be in these hubs or make these moves anymore, which is really great. Yeah. But in terms of home studios, like, because you have a home studio as well,
Yes.
what would you need if you were just starting out?
Well, my own story, really. So I started out with a fairly simple USB microphone. I didn't know any better. USB microphone plugged into my computer, which I put inside the walk-in closet. And I sat on a stool inside the walk-in closet and spun the wheel and sent stuff out. And someone was foolish enough to hire me. And here we are, 10 years later, and I now have my dedicated room with a booth with $1,000 microphones and all that kind of stuff. So
I think for people starting out, you can do it. I think there's a misconception that you need a fancy, huge mic and a whole setup and all that, but that's not the case. You need a good microphone. You need a good sound space, but you could have the greatest microphone in the world and your soundproofing is not good.
Yeah, you see on the forums a lot of time people say, well, what microphone should I buy? And there's a sort of a counterintuitive thing here that if you don't have a good space to work in that helps you control sound from both outside and inside, a good microphone will make you sound worse because it's so sensitive. They listen to everything, they hear everything. So if you haven't got the greatest space in the world, probably you shouldn't be going out and buying a Neumann 416 or a U87 or something. You shouldn't be doing that because it will actually degrade the quality that people are hearing.
Right, and also different microphones sound different for each person. So a Neumann 103, which is like one of the top microphones that a lot of people say you should get, actually doesn't sound that good on my voice. It makes my voice sound too bright, and it makes my voice sound too sibilant, and it picks up that. So I had an engineer tell me, actually, this microphone, a Shure KSM 32, would actually be better for your voice. So it's not like a one microphone fits all, and you have to like.
And locally, if you go to like the Guitar Center in Spartanburg, they've got sound rooms, they've got a whole range of microphones, and they'll let you take them back there and test them out. So you can go and make your own choice that way. You don't have, or there's an online company called Sweetwater, and they're quite happy for you to buy half a dozen microphones, send them all to you, and then you send them back the ones that you don't want, and they'll reimburse you. They're very open to that kind of idea.
Yes, I was going to say they also send candy, and it's like part of the deal, and it's so great. And then I feel like I was talking to someone earlier, which was what are the misconceptions of voiceover acting and getting into voiceover acting, and I was saying things like, people often say you need to be good at impressions, or you need to have a silly voice, or people who you've been told you have a great voice, you should get into voiceover. Like, that's all fine, that's great, but you need to be able to act as well. That's like the main thing about voiceover, is you need to be able to improvise, you need to be able to have those background, because again, you're not gonna get the context. You're not gonna be able, and they might be like, here's your character, here's 6 more that you have to do to build the world. So you have to be able to make choices.
And that's very common in animation and video games, that you might be cast, let's say, as a main or a supporting character, and then there'll be 50, 100, 1,000 NPC characters, non-player characters that they need 2 or 3 or half a dozen lines for, and they'll want you to pick up 3 or 4 or 5 of those in the same session. So
And they all have to be different.
They all have to be different.
Right.
In fact, I was doing that just last week. So.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I've also gotten into the directing side of voiceover and animation and such. And so I hear, people coming in, and you can tell when people are just doing a voice because they think it'll fit the character. That's great, but it's not all about the voice. We want to know if you can act. And I will always choose an actor over someone who's just putting on a voice because I need to be
a lot of the times in the sides, the audition sides that we receive, they don't want cartoony voices. Right. They want grounded, real performances. They actually write that in the side quite regularly. So be mindful of that. Be you more than be someone else so that you can focus on a great acting performance.
And also know your instrument. Explore what your instrument can do, because I can do really great boy voices and my other female colleagues can't. So you have to know your instrument, know what works, know how to do the gritty stuff.
I can't do little boy voices.
Yeah. Usually, it's interesting because usually females are cast as little boy voices.
Jobs.
Yeah, it's great, especially in
And I can't do little girl voices either. It's really...
That's hard.
So I've decided I'm cornering the market in grumpy old blokes. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. And then I also do motion capture and performance capture, which is a whole other thing. But getting into that, you really need an acting background for that because it brings together motion capture and performance capture. For those who don't know, the best example is Gollum from Lord of the Rings, or Avatar, or what was the other one that they just... Oh, Planet of the Apes. Mm-hmm. Those were all motion capture and performance capture. And what's interesting about that is you're on a set, or we call it the volume, but it's like a room this size, and you have cameras 360, and I have some videos, we can look at them a little later, but 360, you have no set, no costumes. If they tell you to get up on this ramp, this is okay, this is your mountain, and you're climbing up the mountain, and you have to run from there to here, and it's hard, and it's snowing. So it's pure imagination, and you'll get a prop that's say you have to hold a gun, or a grenade launcher, but it's actually just a foam pipe, and you have to utilize that and know how to move with that. So that especially, you really have to have your theater background. It brings in theater, it brings in film. It's like being in a black box theater, or in theater in the round, more like.
I had a conversation recently, and I was trying to figure out why the motion capture creation companies have focused in on the voice actor community to hire from, because they hire more from the voice actor community. And I figure it's because we live in our heads, and we can create the world in our heads perhaps better than a stage actor who is used to the props and the furniture and so on. But I don't know if that's true or not.
I think so, because I talked to Tom Keegan, who is an amazing director.
Oh yeah, work with Tom if you get a chance.
Yeah, he did latest games were Jedi Fallen Order. He did Horizon. He did Call of Duty. He's done a ton of video games. But he was saying that he has worked with celebrities who have come in, or on-camera people who have come in, and they feel self-conscious because they don't have the set anymore. They don't have the costume to help. You're in pajamas essentially with trackers on your arm. And
you've seen those pictures, the black wetsuit with lights on.
We can watch. This is a really good example of MOCAP. This is from The Last of Us, if I can get the TV on.
So while she's doing that, while motion capture is you've got to be in the volume, facial capture can be done from the comfort of your own home, as long as you've got a decent webcam. So I play Kyle from Raid Shadow Legends. He's not actually in the game as a voiced character, but for trailers. And that's all facial capture, and then they animate his mouth to my mouth. But that's all they're looking for. They're looking for my performance, facial performance, which they're then adopting onto the character.
Right, and motion capture is just the movement, which is what I've done most of. I've done utilitarian characters, just the movement of a character, of them walking across the stage or them running or whatever. But performance capture, as you're alluding to, is the full performance, the full acting, the full facial capture. And you'll see here we have cameras 360, and they also have a camera on their faces right here. So they're capturing all their expressions here. So this is a scene from The Last of Us. It's a split screen of the behind the scenes of one of the scenes. For those who don't know, The Last of Us is a great game and now TV series, but it takes place in an apocalyptic zombie world. And you'll see both the behind the scenes and what they rendered in the game.
Your mic stands, right?
T-pose for me, please. Cameras. Marker.
Action.
That was close. Thanks for the heroics and all. Ellie. Hey, what are you... Joel?
Bill!
What are you doing?
Bill! Turn around and get on your knees.
Just calm down a second.
Turn around
All right.
and get on your knees. Don't test me.
Just take it easy.
Any bites? Oh. Anything sprouting?
Oh, God damn it, I'm clean!
If I see so much as a twitch. Ow! Stop! Son of a bitch!
You done?
Am I done? You come into my house, you set off all my traps, you damn near break my shooting arm. Who the fuck is this punk and what's she doing here?
I am none of your goddamn business, and we're here because you owe Joel some favors. And you can start by taking these off.
I owe Joel some favors. Is some kind of joke?
I'll cut to the chase. I need a car.
Well, it is a joke. Joel needs a car. Well, if I had one that works, which I sure as hell don't, what makes you think I'd just give it to you? Huh? Yeah, sure, Joel, go ahead. Take my car. Take all my food, too, while you're at it.
By the looks of it, you could lose some of that food.
Listen to me, you little shit.
No, fuck you! You handcuffed me!
I need you to shut up. All right?
Whatever favors you think I owe you ain't worth that much.
Actually, Bill, they are.
Well, it don't matter because I don't have a car that works.
But there is one in this town.
Parts. There are parts in this town.
Meaning that you could fix one up.
All right. I'm gonna do this. There's some gear I'm gonna need.
All right.
It's on the other side of town. Now you help me go gather it, and maybe I can put something together that runs. But after this, I owe you nothing.
That's fine. A couple of days from now, we'll probably be dead anyway.
Good. Follow me. Whole goddamn town's booby trapped. Best stay right on my ass.
Can't miss it.
Knock it off.
T-pose. And we're clear.
That's a T-pose. T-pose? So yeah, so it's really cool medium, at least I enjoy it a lot because it brings together like theater experience, film experience, and voiceover experience, and then you can play.
Is this really all they had to worry about?
Sorry. That's another scene that they did. And then you can play really, you can be so many different things in voiceover. And like that's one of the most interesting things to me because I started in theater, I started in film, and I kind of had this experience of, I was so self-conscious about the way I looked. I was so self-conscious about being mixed ethnicity. I would be like, they're never gonna hire a half Chinese, half Spanish person. And then voiceover was so freeing because I could play like a creature, I could play a femme fatale, I could play a little boy, I could play gremlins and trolls, and it allowed me as an actor to free myself up even more. And that's like one of the greatest things about it. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as an on-screen or a stage actor, I'm stuck with 60-year-olds. But you know, I can play.
Yeah. Wait, what?
That's also
no,
true.
wait.
Yeah, I'm 60. I'm 62.
No, really? You don't look it.
But in voiceover world, my playing age might be anything from 35 up, because I have quite a young voice for a 62-year-old.
Yeah. I do. I do. Yeah, like my favorite is like the little boys. Like I love doing little boys because they're so rambunctious. And then like little girls, but like the little girls are fine too. Yeah.
Questions? Yes.
Yes. Yes. So it very much is like theater in the round because it's so expensive because you have so much equipment. So they really need to get it down. So you'll have usually for something like that, a day of rehearsal where you're going to go. It's usually 9 to 5, so it's not as rigorous as an on-camera schedule, which is also
17
great.
hours.
Yeah. But you'll usually have a day of rehearsal where you go through the scene that you're going to shoot the next day. You go through the blocking, you go through everything, and then you run it a couple of times, you get adjustments, etc. And then the next day is shoot day, and that's when you go. And you really, like, messing up, it's really hard. Like, even if you just mess up one line, you can't just cut and paste. You got to go back and start from the beginning. So you really got to be on your toes, know your lines. And a lot of it is so word perfect. They don't want much improv, if any. So you got to be close to the script. But they treat it, it's very much like theater in the round and a combination of theater in the round and film sets.
It's a real irony because one of the things I used to talk about as being wonderful about voiceover was not having to learn the lines. But because I'm so heavily into video games, like on-camera sides for MOCAP performances are becoming more and more common. So I find myself at home learning the lines. And you get a day, maybe 2 at most.
8 pages.
Yeah.
Same thing as film.
And you need a reader, and and it's the same challenges as an on-camera actor. But I don't know. I don't do a lot of on-camera, but what kind of turnaround time do you get for on-camera sides?
Not long.
2 days, day or 2.
Yeah.
Right. So all the same now. Then we're all in the same boat.
No, you don't for on-camera. Yeah, which is one great thing about this, and the worlds I find in video games are so interesting because, like animation, you can do so much more, tell so many different stories. You're not beholden to what you can do physically or visual effects or whatever. They're creating these magnificent worlds and stories that I find much more intriguing than even some cinema right now. And like, as we can see, there's a growth in video games becoming either cinematics or TV shows or whatever. So they are very much like a cinematic medium right now, and they're utilizing everything.
Yeah. Why write a new story when there are all these stories that already exist that you can turn into content, right?
Yeah, but we already have the content.
That's what I mean. That's the point we're talking about. So the TV and movie production companies are like, oh, there's all these great stories in video game world. Let's use those.
Right.
You had a question.
Yes. I have like an animated film that I was trying to direct for, and I found myself kind of over-directing and wanting to avoid being too controlling, but still achieve, because I had like a specific idea of what I wanted this specific character to sound like, and like what her accent is like, and the sounds of her voice, the gravel, all that stuff. But I found myself, like I said, over-directing. So what are your directing tips for someone who has a specific vision for it?
For a specific vision of a voice specifically, like a specific voice type, my thoughts are to open up your thoughts on the voice specifically, because you want the perfect voice to tell your story, but it's not about how they sound specifically, right? Like when I direct, I get casting, the people I work with, we usually get like 5 selects that the casting director liked. But they always throw in somebody else who might not sound like that person, but the acting was great. So I would say, like, if you have a vision of how they should sound, that's great, put it out there, but be open to hearing the voices, because what you really want is the person to be able to bring the character to life first and foremost, and be able to live in that character versus how they specifically sound. Because they might hit certain things, like you said, gravel. They might have a great gravel or might be the right age, but not necessarily be the right timbre, but their acting is really great. And they encompass that character so well that you fall in love with that. So I would think more about the character you want to bring to the table and the story you want to tell, and then voice can be the final picture there.
How often do you receive notes from a director when you're in the booth?
Less than you might think, I think. The majority of the time, by the time you've got cast, you've already, I don't know, beaten out 1,000, 2,000 other people. They already love how you sound. They already love the performance that you gave in the sides. And it's just a matter of then replicating that for the full role. Occasionally I'll misread something, and then because it's got to be exact, they'll pick up where I've misread, and they'll talk about that. If it's about character, likely we've had conversations before we've even started recording to get the character right. I can remember I was cast as a character called the Psyker in a Warhammer game a few years ago, and we spent 30 minutes getting underneath who the character was. This was a recast, they were very short a time. So I said, well, let's connect and sort that bit out, and then we can go ahead and record. So we spent maybe 30 minutes doing that, just investigating and trying a few different things. I think with the NPCs as well, they'll let you play more with what might or might not work, because it's they're looking to fill their world with interesting and alternative characters. And they might all be military people, but military people have all come from all different shapes and sizes of backgrounds. So they'll often let you play more with that.
I would also say, as a director, you have to trust your actor. Like, one of the things is, like you were saying, you've already cast them out of a pool of 200, 500. So you have to be able to, you shouldn't be going in there saying, oh, they can't do this. They can't do this. You should be going in there being like, okay, they can do this. I know what they can do. They were great. And then it's a matter of collaboration, especially in animation and voice and like all film and theater. It's such a collaboration with the people. But I'm working with, as a director, I'm working with my engineer, and I'm also working with the actor. And together we'll find the right story. And I might have more knowledge of the story. So they have to, as an actor, trust me to know that I'm going to guide them in the right direction of where the story is going to take them, where they are in the moment, what happened before. Because sometimes the actors will not get like a moment before or after. They'll be like, here's your situation. And as a director, you have to be like, okay, here's your situation. This is what happened before. This is the subtext of the scene. This is what you're going through as a character. This character, she's gritty. She was an assassin in the past, but now she's trying to find a new way out. And that this is the moment that she decides that she's going to leave the assassination.
And there are tiers of work as well. So at the top end of the AAA end, there'll be a specialist booth director who's in control of making sure that everything comes out all right. Below that, you might have like one of the devs from the video game or one of the animators, and they might never have directed an actor before in their life, but they're there because it's their story. And that's where you say, well, they almost don't know what or how to say, but they're trusting that you as an actor will just get it right.
But you will always have a director in the room, and they are usually also the liaison between a client and the actor. So the client, who may not have directed anyone before, will be like, I need them to be more angry. And the director will then have to translate for the, okay,
but
in
calmer.
this, yeah. Sometimes, yeah.
Angry but calmer.
Yeah, angry but calmer. And then the director will be like, okay, do you mean like they're seething at this? Like, what do you specifically mean? The client will talk to the director, and the director will be like, okay, Ian, in this moment, I need you to just like, you're in this situation. It's just, you've been trying to do it for however long, you can't get it out. Yeah. This is what you need. This is what we need.
And anger isn't always about shouting either,
right.
is it?
Yeah.
So it's different ways in which you can express anger.
But you also want to provide an environment as a director, because you say you were directing. Yeah, you want to provide an environment for your actors to feel safe to take those. Okay. So what I often do is be like, here's what's going on. Let's go for a take. They'll do a take, and and if it's not quite where we need it, I'll be like, okay, that was great. I liked this. I liked this. I liked this. Let's dial in here and work on this section, and then we'll go again. Yeah.
I did something right then. Okay. And not to monopolize your time,
No.
one last question. If you ever get the chance to have visuals from whatever you're voice acting for, does it help you to see those visuals, or does it help you to like work off of just what you've got on the side or what you've got in your head, or is it more like an actor-to-actor basis?
Visuals meaning like storyboards or like. For me, it helps because I get to see specifically like the action of what's happening, especially if it's like they're running and jumping and need to do all this. It helps. And like we were saying earlier, just like for character creation, it helps me to be able to see what's going on just so I can hit certain things. Because like, especially with efforts, like the running, the jumping, the battle cries, it's like you need to know the specific timing of when the person jumps, because when they jump sounds different from when they land and things like that. So.
Yeah, nothing to add. Really.
Yeah, of course. Rhodes.
Oh, let's go over here.
Thank you. I was curious. Now, I've done some voiceover, two that actually stick out in my mind. But if one was to want to do more, and given the location, I live in this area, so it's not like I can, like I live in the city or whatever. What type of material would I want to put together for a voiceover reel? And I'm sure there are people who do video agents, out there that want to do submissions like that. But, in choosing material, what would I'll just lay it all on you for me. What would my thought process be? Like, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? What type of genre do I want to be in?
You've answered.
Yeah, I was going to say
largely,
so there are so many different genres for voiceover. There's animation, there's video games, there's e-learning, there's commercials, there's industrials, there's trailers, there's promo. So it's really what you see, what you want to do. If you want to do animation, then start putting together an animation reel with like, or video games, together a video game reel with the type of video game characters that you want to play and that you see yourself playing. So like military, what accents can you do? Can you do?
Further to that, I'd say, assuming that you have the financial wherewithal to do so, hire a good demo producer coach who will work with you to find characters, to write scripts specific to your style, a demo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct,
there are script libraries out there that you can use for practice. Edge Studio has a great script library, but don't use any of that on a demo reel because all the inverted commas amateurs do that, and then of course the same scripts are being heard over and over again by the casting directors, and then they know that you didn't write, if you're a writer, write your own scripts. I have a villains reel, and I think 6 of the 8 scripts I wrote. So think about what kind of characters you can play, what kind of accents you can perform, what kind of situations that you can put yourself in that might feel somewhat realistic.
And you can look at, the agency, voiceover agency websites. Like in LA, there's Atlas, there's DPT, Dean Pinero Talent, there's CESD, but they all have the voiceover reels of their clients up there. So you can see the kind of trends that are going on and see what they've done. But usually it's original scripts. It's not like pulled work, especially if you don't have any pulled work. And you can go to a demo producer who will help you figure that out too. And like what specifically, as Ian was saying, works for you.
So now would this be kind of monologue based or conversational?
More situational based, like especially for video games, like in scenes, like as if you were one character speaking in a scene, like for a military person, for example, if you're a commander being like, okay, we need to do this, I need to do this, get down, things that happen, and they're really quick. They shouldn't be more than a minute, right? A minute, or is it 2?
Your whole demo reel might be
a minute and a half,
and you might have 6 or 8 scenarios within that reel.
Yeah, and it's very quick to just establish character, scene, what you can do right off the bat. And then the next one should be like, if you can do an accent, then showcase the accent in a different character, different situation, different scene, and continue for like 6 or 8 characters.
See, what you're trying to do with your demo reel, your demonstration, it's like your calling card. So if you're reaching out, let's say to a video game development studio or to an agent or to a video production house, you want to be able to show those people that you can play more than one role. Because if you can only play one role, the work that's available to you is clearly narrowed. So as an actor, if you can embody different types of people, then that gives you more chance of being cast.
And there's also different genres within each category. So like video games, yes, there's the AAA cinematic like Last of Us, but there's also like JRPGs, which are a whole different genre, and finding yourself in those. And same with commercials. There's like difference between like conversational, grounded, like welcome to McDonald's, how can I help you? Versus like the new Jaguar, like things like that.
The new Jaguar logo,
Yeah.
it sucks. Sorry.
So yeah, yeah. So there are different genres within each category too.
And a decade ago when I started, if you had a character, a commercial, and a narrative demo, that's all you needed. Now, pretty much, you need something to showcase your abilities in just about every genre that you want to work in. I think if I can put it this way, if you wanted to be someone who narrated training modules, e-learning for corporates, the rationale was that the person in HR who's picking that doesn't want to hear you advertising McDonald's. They want to hear that you can talk about health and safety. So you have to have something that showcases the kind of thing that they're going to be hiring you for so that you're aligning yourself with them. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes perfect sense. It just seems like there's so many different avenues to go down. How do you label
there
it
really
all?
are.
Do you have an infinitesimal amount of different voiceover reels?
Increasingly, you can subdivide it as much as you want.
But I would say the main ones that specifically agents look for are commercial, animation, and video games. But more commercial, because that's where they're really going to make their money.
That's where the money is.
Yeah, so commercial would be, in my opinion, the first one to do. And then you can do animation and video games. Yeah.
And there's an irony there as well that video game and animation, which, if you like, popular culture has brought these things to the public eye so much, has brought a lot of people to voiceover as an interest, are probably two of the hardest genres to break into, because the dramatic needs and, if you like, the level of investment that the developers and the animators are putting into these things, they often will go back and use trusted talent who they know have a wide range of voice and performance in them, rather than giving someone new a chance. It's very difficult to really break through. But commercial, there's so much, and both locally, regionally, nationally, overseas, everybody wants to advertise their product.
And the great thing about commercial is they are, all the studios for commercial have stuck to the remote talent aspect. So they are not, unlike animation and video game where they're asking talent to come into studio more, commercial talent is totally okay using remote talent. So you can work from home and make a good living wherever you are. So I would stick to commercial first and then go into
your point
animation.
being, I live in Spartanburg. I'm a Brit. I live in the middle of metaphorical nowhere, but I have a full-time career as a voice actor. Rhodes, you had a question. Your hand was up. Well, I know Adam has a question as well.
Yeah, really quick one. Because I came across this with working with you when you did the narration for the trailer. How do I properly credit you under IMDb for it?
Narrator?
Just narrator. Okay. I wasn't sure if there was a specific thing for like.
I don't know. The complete superstar of our show would do well. You don't need. I don't think you need to say the British voice or anything. But you would say narrator, probably. Yeah.
Rose, did you have a question, or was that your...
Sure, yeah. Do you want to ever try to explore things that are like straining your voice, or because you have to, sometimes you have to maintain it for 10 pages, and yes, you do want to do that?
Well, okay, so you have to be safe about it. For example, for video games, a lot of the stuff we do is call-outs. So like, get down, things like that. That you have to be careful about. I always say that my favorite thing is to die by fire. Because it's such a specific.
Sure, it could be arranged.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would not want to be. That's like the worst death in life. But to voice it is one of my favorite things because there's such a growth and it's quick and then it peaks and then you die down, literally. But yes, like explore. If you're just beginning to explore what your voice can do, and that sometimes might mean exploring like the strenuous stuff. What makes your voice tired? Etc. What are your limits? But for call outs and stuff, like we do so much of it that it's a really good skill to have. And that also for theater training that comes from, using your diaphragm versus going up here, how to use your false vocal cords versus your regular vocal cords and learning that anatomy and stuff like that. And that will like help you. But yeah, strenuous stuff is good. You have to be willing to do it.
Yeah, there was always this apocryphal story about you've been in a session for 4 hours doing a video game, and then right at the end of the 4 hours, the director says, "Can we now have 50 death screams, please?"
Right.
That fortunately and luckily for all of us, that environment, people were seriously damaging, coughing up blood in the corner and things like that. Now I think everyone accepts I've never been in a session where the people at the other end haven't been conscious of knowing that our voices are a muscle and they get tired, and that's when you do damage to yourself when you're tired. For extremely vocal sessions, it's now industry accepted that 2 hours is the maximum.
But also, don't be afraid as an actor or whoever, or even a director, to stand up for your talent or for yourself if you're not getting what you need. If you're like, my voice is dying, I have 3 more hours, and tomorrow I have a commercial session, you have to be like, okay, can we take a 5-minute break? I really need this right now. And so don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. Yeah. And if you're a director, don't be afraid. If you're saying, okay, we have 4 hours and we have death screams at the end, we're not gonna do all the shouty stuff in the beginning. We're gonna do the scene work in the beginning and then save the shouty stuff for later, so that you can save your talent's voice. So safety, as in film and theater, is paramount.
I think we have to wrap
Yeah,
up.
we're good.
I see Ashley like...
Thank you guys so much
Thank
for
you.
being here. We really appreciate it.